Hello, it's John here from UniTasterDays and welcome to this Uni Taster on Demand. Today we're going to be looking at a year in industry, sometimes also known as sandwich university courses. And I'm delighted to be joined by Lara, who's actually experienced doing one, is going to provide a perspective of the year in industry. I'm also joined by Orla from the University of Exeter, and Orla's going to introduce the event and tell you a little bit more about Lara and how we're going to progress the rest of the session. So with that, Orla, I'll pass things over to you, please.
Hello, my name's Orla from the University of Exeter. I'm an outreach officer and I'm here with Lara today to tell you a little bit more about a year in industry and industrial work placement. Now, if you apply for a course such as medicine or nursing or veterinary science, then the placements are actually part of the course. You don't have to apply for these separately, so they're slightly different to the year in industry where you'll have to apply for them once you're at university as well. But Lara will tell you a little bit more about that later on. So we're going to find out today, actually, what is this work placement? What does it involve? What does a typical day look like? We'll find out about the benefits of doing a work placement, how can it set you ahead in the graduate market, and also how you actually apply for them. So I'll now pass you over to Zara to introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about.
Hiya, I'm Lara from the University of Exeter, studying business and management with industrial experience. I'm now in my final year, so last year I did my industrial placement at Johnson & Johnson Consumer in marketing. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but first I'm just going to take you through what a placement is, how you apply, and then I'll take you through my own experience. So the main aim of industrial placement is to put the theory that you learn as part of your course into a business context and to learn work-based skills by actually doing. Many universities encourage their students to consider spending their third year out in the field, either gaining industrial experience, studying abroad, or a combination of these. And these opportunities are available in the UK, Europe, and beyond. At the University of Exeter and lots of other universities, many degree courses allow you to undertake either a module, a semester, or a full year work placement. And these can be in your country of study or overseas. And they can be used as part of a credit-bearing module instead of the full year. Undergraduate students complete a placement in their third year, then come back to their university for their fourth and final year where they'll complete their final year modules. Placements usually start between June and August and last between 6 and 12 months, although this depends on the minimum placement length requirement of around 33 weeks, excluding holidays. It may even be possible to extend your placement period depending on the final year start date. So I was actually able to extend my placement by 2 months and did just over 14 months in total. Some students may be able to undertake 2 or more shorter placements to make up the minimum placement length requirement. And this is a great opportunity to gain experience in different companies and potentially even different fields all within 1 year. The work that you'll be expected to do will be of an appropriate level, allowing you to exponentially grow your skills and aid career development. Finally, on your placement, you may be required to complete an academic piece of work, for example, a report or competency-based questions on your placement in order to pass the year, but this is university dependent. So depending on what field you're in, activities on your placement will vary significantly, but you're likely to be given much more responsibility than you expect. Some typical activities across most placements include experience with many different departments and networking with people across the company. This could be in a formal rotation scheme where you work in different departments or teams for a set period of time, or it could be a more organic way of networking through working in cross-functional teams on the same project. Either way, it's a great opportunity to network and learn from those with different expertise from your own. You may also get the opportunity to work with those significantly higher up in the company than yourself, and this is also great to learn from those who have been where you are and have worked their way up. You could have a client-facing role where you get to meet and develop relationships with clients, and this will develop your soft skills such as building a rapport, which, despite the name, soft skills are just as important as hard skills in professional success. There may be the opportunity to go on fully funded training courses, and this is a huge opportunity to gain a qualification whilst on placement, some of which, for example, in consulting, will get you one step closer to being certified in the field. Finally, there's often a lot of project work, which you may even be able to plan and manage by yourself. And you can develop your presentation skills, project management skills, and be involved in exciting, challenging projects and technical discussions. Overall, a placement can offer a varied scope of work and can be tailored to your own areas of interest if you just ask. If you choose to take a with industrial experience program, you'll get the opportunity to put into practice some of the things that you learned in your first 2 years. This means that you'll come back in your final year well equipped with practical experience in your chosen area of study. I personally felt a lot more disciplined with my work. I was able to more easily grasp concepts and produced a higher level of work after returning from my placement. And this was all reflected in my grades and feedback. Overall, I just felt a lot more confident in what I was doing, and this is a great feeling to know that everything I'd done over the year is helping to contribute to my overall degree. What's more, your placement will give you a proven employment track record and extra confidence when you set out to your first graduate job. Many graduate employers now use industrial placements as a pathway to permanent roles, so you may even be offered a graduate job from your placement provider. Johnson & Johnson start by employing those who are from their internal pool, so those who are on placement, before reaching externally for their graduate jobs. And I will be returning to Johnson & Johnson for my graduate job, and they even allow me to defer for a year so that I can take a year out to travel. So a really great opportunity there, and that can really take the pressure off for you in your final year. Completing the With Industrial Experience program and securing a placement will also provide you with significant advantage of being able to market yourself with clear evidence and examples of your work. And this is definitely an advantage when applying for grad jobs. Finally, you get to earn for a year, which of course is a bonus. It was definitely the first time that I've earned that much, and it was really great to be able to see my work being put into, see the work that gets put into the outcomes. And it was, yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to work in that sense. So how do you actually apply for a placement? In terms of your university course, you can apply directly to a With Industrial Experience course via UCAS, or you can apply to the standard 3-year course and transfer onto one of these options in your first year. It's much easier, however, and you're more likely to be successful if you apply at the start of your journey when you're applying for university courses, because the With Industrial Experience option may be full if you don't do it initially. When I was going through the UCAS process, I was definitely told that it's much easier to revert from a 4-year course to a 3-year course than the other way around. So if you're considering it, I definitely apply for the 4-year course just in case. Placements are likely to be advertised at least 3 months in advance of the start date to allow for the recruitment process and the placement paperwork process, but I would start your placement search in September of your 2nd year. For some industries like finance, investment banking, and consulting, applications open as early as August, so you'll need to be very organized. But even if applications for your roles don't start that early, I would recommend getting your CV and your cover letter and having an idea of which companies you want to apply to done early, as it can be a lot when you're applying for placements and completing your 2nd year work at the same time. So it's definitely in your best interest to start early to make the process less stressful. Also, a lot of companies hire on a rolling basis, so it's first come, first served, and the application deadline may close earlier than originally advertised, so you really want to get your foot in there. You can apply to placements directly through the university career portal. For example, the University of Exeter has a platform called Handshake where lots of placements are advertised. They're not specifically for the University of Exeter students, but the careers team have put them all in one place to make the process easier for their students. And I'm sure many other universities have something similar. You can also go onto company websites themselves, or you can send a speculative email asking whether they offer placements, or you can go on job websites like LinkedIn or Indeed. Handshake didn't exist when I was applying for placements, so I just did Google searches and LinkedIn searches for placements in marketing to see what would come up, and then applied directly through company websites. At Exeter, students follow a comprehensive careers management program and are supported in their work placement search by employability advisors and the program director. And we have to take modules in our 1st and 2nd years, which to take you through the application process and give you practice in interviews and assessment centres to equip you with the skills to be successful in securing a role. Applying for placements is very competitive and it involves formal interviews and assessment centre days. So it's essential that you do your research into the company and the role that you're applying to ahead of doing so, as ultimately the responsibility lies with you for sourcing and securing a work placement. So for the placement that I secured, I'll take you through the application process. I initially had to submit my CV, my cover letter, and answer some longer form questions as to why I was applying. I then had to complete a maths test and some psychometric tests, which are designed to understand how your brain works and what personality type you have. I was then invited to complete a video interview, after which I was invited to an assessment centre where I had to do another maths test, give a pre-prepared presentation, do a group interview, and then an individual interview. I'm sure that sounds very daunting and like a lot of work, but I got through it and a lot of other people do. And I had experience with all of these different elements through my course. So I felt somewhat prepared and was successful ultimately. So I'm sure you can be too. So industrial placements may sound like something for courses which are a bit more practical, but they're available in a wide range of sectors. As I said, I did mine in marketing, but they are available in sales, retail, banking, accounting, lots of different roles. And people from Exeter have gone to companies like IBM, Google, Disney, PwC, Unilever, just to name a few. So some really amazing opportunities there. As I said earlier, I completed my placement at Johnson & Johnson Consumer in the brand marketing team for oral care, and I worked mostly on the brand Listerine mouthwash, and I supported the UK, Ireland, and the Nordics. My role was extremely varied, but my main responsibilities were budget management, weekly and monthly performance tracking, and website management. These were tasks which hold a huge amount of responsibility as they were integral to the functioning of the team, and I hadn't done anything like it before, but I was given the support to learn and gain autonomy over the tasks that I did. Some more fun things I did include working with a freelancer to design the packaging of a new product, which can now be seen on shelves across the UK and Ireland. It's really cool to go into supermarkets across the country and see something which I literally designed on my own computer. Also, I did the PR work for the UK and Ireland, and I was able to launch a Listerine social media account as well. I also extended my placement by 2 months, which gave me the opportunity to support the relaunch of the brand. So as you can tell, I was able to do a lot and was given a lot of responsibility. And I did things which I didn't even know that I could do. But yes, you'll definitely be given more responsibility than you think. And it's a really amazing opportunity. Just a few highlights of my year included the Oral Healthcare Awards, where I got to present an award, which is pretty cool. There's also the end of year company conference, which was a nice day out at Wembley Stadium. We had like a 5-course dinner and it was all very snazzy and really cool. So that was very fun. And also a group of 12 of us organized a holiday to Budapest together. So from a social standpoint, it was also really, really fun. And I loved all the people that I worked with and got to meet a lot of amazing people. So it's not just great from a professional standpoint, but also a social standpoint as well. So some frequently asked questions, starting with pay. This will vary depending on your placement provider, the sector you're applying to, and your location. Salaries typically range from £19,000 to £23,000, but they can be as high as £43,000 and as low as £12,500. So either way, you're earning something, which is really great experience. For accommodation, if you apply for a scheme and are successful, you may have to live in a new city whilst completing your placement. So before you apply, you might want to ask yourself, will I have to move out? If so, where will I be moving to? Will I be happy in this place that I'm moving to? And can I afford on my salary to move to a certain location? Johnson & Johnson's closest office to London is Maidenhead, so which is nearest Reading, and I live in North London, so I actually commuted every day by driving about an hour and a half each way. For me, that was the right decision because I didn't want to move to Maidenhead, and petrol is cheaper than rent, so it just made the most sense for me. But a lot of other placements did move to Maidenhead, and Johnson & Johnson actually provided us with some links that they have with local estate agents and people lived with each other in the same way that you do at university, in groups, and they were able to just kind of bunch together by finding out who was going to be living in Maidenhead, and kind of did it that way. And it seemed like they all had a lot of fun, so that's also a really great option. In terms of your student status, you will be registered as a student and eligible for all your usual student discounts, exemptions, and support whilst on placement. So for example, your council tax, student fees and finances, travel cards, uni cards, and student discounts will all be the same. For your tuition fees, at Exeter currently, we are charged £1,800 for our year out on placement, but this is subject to annual review. The fees cover module assessment, support from your personal and placement tutor, employability advisors, IT services, and other student support services, and many universities will have a similar fee. Finally, your assessment. So at Exeter, as part of the programme, before the placement, we have to do 2 non-credit bearing modules. And these are to prepare you for the placement search and recruitment processes, including CVs, interviews, LinkedIn, and assessment centres. These sessions are compulsory and will appear on your timetable, and you have to pass these in order to continue on the With Industrial Experience course. The placement year assessment currently comprises of progress reports provided by your employer, a reflective essay, a business report, and you'll also be allocated a placement tutor to support you during your placement year. I found the work that we had to do on placement really helpful to so that I can reflect on the year that I had just done, and these kind of assessments will differ depending on which university you go to. So there are also some alternatives to doing a placement, and you could do some work before you go in a gap year. If you're thinking about taking a gap year before you enroll at university, there are a few things that you should consider. First, you need to check what the policy is on taking a gap year at the higher education provider that you're applying to. Some universities may not take gap year entrants, for example, if it's a highly competitive subject that you're applying for, whilst others may already include a year in industry or study abroad as part of the degree programme, so they may discourage gap year applicants. And other subjects may even encourage you to take a gap year. So you just need to check and see what your higher education provider wants from you. You also need to consider what it is that you're going to do during your gap year. Will you be travelling, or will you be seeking employment or volunteer work? Whatever you decide to do, you're likely to be asked what you did on your placement year in job interviews, for example, so make sure it's constructive. Playing Call of Duty for a whole year, I wouldn't consider to be super constructive, so maybe something a bit more exciting than that, but it can be a really great opportunity to gain experience, and you can get examples of your work, which can be a real asset when applying for other jobs. Finally, you'll also need to consider whether you want to apply for your university place and then defer your entry, or apply during your gap year. If you can defer your offer, it means that you don't need to worry about applying through the UCAS process whilst you're on your gap year. And this is especially important if you're thinking of traveling and you don't have regular access to internet. When I started university, there were lots of people who were taking gap years, and it wasn't the right thing for me, as I knew I wanted to take one after I finished university, but for a lot of people, it is the right decision, and you can have some really great opportunities. So it's also something to consider.
So another option that you may decide to go for is a degree apprenticeship. So if you're really interested in gaining that work placement, then a degree apprenticeship is where you would be a full-time salaried employee while studying for a degree. So your degree will be paid for by the company and then also pay you your salary. These courses are typically a little bit longer. They're normally 4 to 5 years, and they're an alternative to just doing the 1 year in industry. However, you may not have as typical a student experience, as you may be expected to live elsewhere that's not on campus. To apply for these, you don't go through UCAS. You actually contact the companies directly, and they'll put you through interviews and assessment centres, just like the way you'd apply for a typical job. But this is an alternative if you really want to focus on that work experience aspect. So hopefully today you found out a little bit more about that year in industry. Remember, all it is putting all the theory that you've learned in your lectures and in your studies into a business context alongside developing those workplace skills. And that's what you'll gain from your year in industry. To find out more information, I'd recommend going onto the university websites to discover a little bit more about all the programs that they deliver. I'd recommend going on to UCAS to see all the courses that have this option and also to look at the course code and entry requirements. You may wish to go on things like Rate My Placement or Handshake, where you can find out the opportunities that are available to students. UniBuddy is a great way to just talk to current students about how they're finding their year in industry and their experiences. And finally, UniTasterDays is the best place to go to find out more about the different sessions that universities will be putting on in the next year or so, where you can discover more about their industrial placements. But thank you very much for listening and good luck with your search.